Hi guys, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and today we are taking a look at my 5 favourite Jeff Beck moments. So I've just taken part in a video over on Produce Like a Pro with my good friend Warren Hewitt, where we were looking at some examples of Jeff Beck's playing. And we thought it would be a good idea for me to look at those in a little bit more detail here. Now, Jeff Beck needs no long introductions. The 8-time Grammy-winning guitar player is without a doubt one of the greatest rock guitar players of all time. His musical styles cross between rock, rock and roll, jazz, fusion, and even ambient and techno electronic music. He's a guitar player that has continued to push boundaries and grow throughout his entire career. He never stands still. Now, Jeff is known for his phenomenal taste and touch and unorthodox use of the whammy bar and harmonics. He is pretty much a fingerstyle player. Well, I would say exclusively a fingerstyle player since 1989 when he released the Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop album. He has the ability to play these beautifully haunting melodies, very simplistic melodies, but played in an incredibly unorthodox manner, often utilizing harmonics in a variety of different positions and using the whammy bar to change the pitch of the melody. Throughout his career, he has worked with a wide and diverse range of artists, from the Yardbirds, Rod Stewart, Joss Stone, John Bon Jovi, Imelda May, Brian Wilson, Morrissey. The list goes on. He really is the guitarist's guitarist. When it comes to equipment, Jeff has had a long relationship with Fender. He's had 2 different Fender Strats, signature Fender Strats released. Obviously, in the earlier days, he was famed for using Les Pauls throughout the blow-by-blow period. He was playing a Les Paul. And then onto Wired, we see him playing a Strat. But he also uses Tellies. He has that famous Telly Gibb guitar, I think that's what it's called, where it's a Fender Telecaster with 2 Seymour Duncan humbuckers in it. In terms of amplifiers, he's pretty much a Marshall user and Fender amps. I actually had the opportunity of playing with Jeff Beck a few years ago. I'll talk about that in a moment. And when I played with him, he was using Strats, Marshalls, and also a Klon pedal, a Klon Centaur. Now, for today's session, I've chosen to use some different guitars. I wanted to sort of reference that Telly Gibb guitar. So I'm using my Music Man, custom Music Man Axis Super Sport with P90s. This is a Music Man P90, and this is a Damasio DLX Plus, which is like a humbucker in P90s clothing, if you like. I'm also using my Music Man Cutlass, as well as my custom-built Music Man Silhouette Special. I'm running into my Mesa California Tweed combo and into the Mesa Cab Clone IR, which is going direct into my recording interface. And I'm also using a couple of pedals. I'm using an exotic SP compressor and a Wampler Tumnus, trying to give it a little bit of that Klon feel. Now, I do have a little bit of a Jeff Beck story, as I mentioned a moment ago. 10 years ago, I was playing with Brian May, promoting the album that he put out with Kerry Ellis, the Anthems album. It was probably a couple of year period that I was working with Brian, and also did some things under the Brian May banner. And he also, incredible honor, he invited me to play one gig with Queen, which was to celebrate Freddie Mercury's 65th birthday, or what would have been his 65th birthday. Now, very often when I was working with Brian, they would hire me Steve Pryor as my guitar tech. Now, Steve Pryor is actually Jeff Beck's tech. And we were in rehearsals for the Queen gig, and Steve was teching for me. And he said to me, do you know who's playing with us? Have you got any idea who the guests are? And I was like, I have no idea. No one's told me anything. And he said, well, Jeff Beck's coming in. And a few days into the rehearsal period, in came Jeff Beck, which was a little bit nerve-wracking, actually. I must admit, having Brian May one side and Jeff Beck the other side, you kind of think, okay, I'm here to do a job. You got to really sort of step up and do your thing as a man in black. I kind of kept myself to myself, and he was really polite and he was lovely to play with. Very, very appreciative when you're playing, and not a demanding person or anything. Kind of let you do your thing. But when we got into the rehearsals at the venue, things sort of loosened up a bit. We've been spending a few days together, and we started to talk, and it was a lot more relaxed, and he was a really lovely guy to hang out with. And so we get into the day of the gig, and so I come into the green room, and Jeff is sitting at the table, and he's warming up. He's got a little Vox Valvetronic amp there, and so I just sort of walk past, say hello. I'm like, won't get in your way. He said, no, come and sit down, Jamie, sit down with me. So we sat there, and it was the two of us sitting at the table, and we were just chatting, and he said, oh, what do you want me to play? And so I said, Where Were You? It had to be that track, that beautiful instrumental off of Guitar Shop, and he played it for me. I had my own personal performance. But the funny part of this story, this is a classic actually. We were on stage, and Jeff's part, the part of the show where Jeff came up and played. So I'm standing there. Jeff Beck and Brian May on stage played the best A5 chord I've ever played in my life. All of a sudden, Jeff Beck just switched off my booster. And I'm like, Jeff Beck's turned my booster off. What have I done wrong? So all my sound went. So I turned my booster back on, carried on. Jeff Beck turned off my booster again, but he didn't seem stressed or angry at me. I thought, well, maybe I'm too crunchy, too loud, taking up too much space, all these things going on in your mind. So, you know, I had this really thin sound. So I turned my booster back on. All of a sudden his foot came over and I looked at his foot and it hovered. I looked round at him and he just looked at me and rolled his eyes and then went and switched off his own booster. Bless him. He got our pedal boards confused, but that was always a moment for me on that gig that really made me chuckle. And it's kind of nice to see that Jeff Beck was human. Anyway, without further ado, let's kick into the examples. And we're going to start off by taking a look at 'Cause We've Ended as Lovers. And I wanted to use this as an example of how you can develop a simple melody and also use target notes as a way of identifying the chord changes. So to kick things off, what we're going to do here, we're going to be playing the C note on the 13th fret of the B. As you strike it, you play it with the volume down. And then once you've struck the note, you're then going to, with your little finger, or whichever finger you choose, I always extend my little finger, a little bit of Steve Morse influence there, and bring the volume control in to fade the note in. So you get something like this. So you're bending that note up by a whole tone. So you've really got to watch your muting to make sure you don't touch any of the other strings. And then again, I tend to, once I've done that bend, I'm using my palm on the other strings, and then I tuck my fingers in, my second and third fingers to grab hold of the top strings to stop me sounding that string. The third time we do that, we bend up a tone and then we push up another semitone. Back down again, and then one final time. Now, I should point out that this introduction is also free time, so you're very much listening for the keyboard changes. So now we're into the verse progression. Let's have a look at the chords. We're going to be playing over a C minor or C minor 7th, A flat major 7th, F minor 7th, and then we have a C sus4 to a C chord. Now, I've simplified these chords ever so slightly, and the keyboards on the track are obviously picking out different extensions. I should mention this actually. I was kind of a bit stupid of me that I didn't mention this at the beginning. This track is off of the Blow by Blow album, but this track was actually written by Stevie Wonder, and this track is dedicated to Roy Buchanan, who is one of Jeff's heroes. Okay, so once the band and the progression kicks in, we continue with that bending that C note up. So we go. Obviously, this time we're picking it. We're not fading in with the volume control. Up the tone and a half. So then we drop down and outline the C sus chord. We're playing 5 on the G and 6 on the B. And then we slide into that 5th fret B, which is the major third. So that outlines that change between the C sus to the C. So you get... So one more time, the intro. Now we're into the main melody, and this is a great example of how you can develop a melody and also keep the melody consistent as we play over the different chord changes. Another thing also to pay attention to here is some of these phrases have got a real lazy feel to them. In some points, he's really playing behind the beat. We start off with this little phrase over the C minor. There, you're kind of holding back a bit. You're raking into that first part of the phrase. Got that little semitone bend there on the 7th fret G. Then we're sliding from the 3rd fret D up to the 6th fret. I do that with my 2nd finger, and that's when we change to the A flat chord. Okay, there, pulling off 6 to 4 on the top E, 4 on the B, and then so you can hear how we've taken that same melody and we're playing it over the different chord changes. Then we have over the F minor chord. And then we have that final change to the C sus to C. So let's play that first part of the melody complete. Here we go. Okay, so now we're into the next part of the melody. We start this off with our thumb on the low E, and we're sliding from the 5th fret of the low E up to the 8th fret. You kind of slide in to some of these phrases. Now there, that's a particularly hard phrase to play. You do the raking, and then we're dropping down to the 8th fret and we're bending up a tone and a half. Then we're over the next chord. Instead of sliding that final phrase, this time we're bending it. And then we're a little bit more sparse with the melody over the F minor. So now let me play through the entire verse for you. Here we go. Really try and work on your vibrato. Let your notes breathe a little bit before you add your vibrato as well, and try and sit back behind the beat. So now let's take a look at the chorus progression. We have a slightly different chord progression here. We start off with the D triad with the C in the bass, down to an F minor 7th, B flat major, C sus 4 to C. We have some slightly different harmony that we're playing over, and once again we see Jeff really outlining the chord changes with very, very strong target notes. Okay, so let's take a look at the first part of the chorus. We have this little C major pentatonic figure here, C major A minor, little pre-bend on 7 on the G. Then we bend up and we cut the note, and we're cutting that note off and then jumping straight to that 7th fret D. It's quite a hard phrase to get sounding exactly the same way as he played. Okay, here we're going to really outline the changes. Okay, so once you played up to the 7th fret of the G, up to the 8th fret G, then we're down to that 6th fret of the D string, the minor 3rd of our F chord. So you can really hear the chord progression underneath. Then we move the melody up, higher register. We got these repeating string bend phrase. Now, this is one of my favorite Jeff Beck licks, this next one. I love the way that he plays a note and then drops a whole tone behind and bends up to the pitch of the note, the previous note. So bending up there with your first finger. For those of you interested, I've got 10 through to 52 gauge strings. So I'm using quite heavy strings. So, you know, it does take a little bit of achieving that first finger bend. Okay, so now I'm going to play through the entire chorus for you. Here we go. So now we're going to take a look at our next example, and this is without a doubt one of the most beautiful pieces of guitar ever recorded. The wonderful Where Were You, taken from Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop album from 1989. Now, I've swapped guitars. I'm now playing my Music Man Cutlass. I needed to have a bit more of a pure single coil for this. Obviously I need the Whammy bar, but I found that this guitar worked really nicely with the Harmonics. Now, for the first part of the lesson, I've just got the tumness engaged. Otherwise we'll get a ton of noise. Sitting in front of a valve amp with single coil pickups with a compressor on does induce quite a lot of noise. So I will play the examples first of all without the compressor, and then we'll put the compressor on because it does help. Obviously, playing this live with a cranked amp, you potentially wouldn't need a compressor, but in this environment, it does help. So we've ditched the pick. We're on fingers now. So this track is absolutely beautiful, and this is a great example of how Jeff takes an incredibly simple melody but chooses to play it in a very unorthodox way. But at the same time, this has some exceptionally difficult and very advanced whammy bar techniques going on. So we're going to outline an A major chord to start off with. We're up here, 16th fret G, and the 18th fret G and the 17th fret of the B string. Sorry, I can't speak today. We'll do that again. Here we go. So 18th fret of the G, 17th fret of the B. And then we play the 19th fret of the G, the 17th fret and the 19th fret of the B. So here we go again. And then we play the 19th fret of the G as a harmonic. Okay, now sometimes I'm gonna, I'm not saying that I am an expert at this at all, and I probably play things slightly differently. I think any tune is open to interpretation. I'm certainly not gonna, use the whammy bar exactly the same way as he does. Then we have this little run. Okay, there we're playing 16, 18 on the G and then 19 on the G string, which is the harmonic. So then we have the run. It's really important to watch your muting when you're playing this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play the harmonic, and we're going to raise up a whole tone to start with. And then we're back down. You're basically going, that's the melody. So you play the 19th fret, you go up a whole tone, back down, drop down by a semitone, and then you drop down by a further tone. So you're a tone and a half lower than that harmonic. So you get this. So you can kind of hear me dipping and scooping in. Let's kick the compressor in. This is going to probably be a little bit noisier, but let's check it out with the compressor. Here we go. So you can hear how we're dipping into those notes. So let's play that whole first part of the example now with the compressor. Here we go. Okay, the second half of the melody is pretty much the same. We have a slight variation to it, again, showing how Jeff takes a simplistic melody and develops it. We have this. So he kind of sits on that 19th fret and applies a bit more vibrato with the bar. Back to our harmonic, then the run up. Now this time we're going to go, so you've got to drop down to that A note at the end. So you get, okay, I'll put the compressor on so the note will last a little bit longer. Here we go. Obviously I'm getting a little bit of noise there, so bear with me, but you get the idea of how accurate and how delicate you have to be with the whammy bar. So let's just play through it one more time, just for fun. I know you saw it in my little intro performance, but let's kick the compressor in and see if I can do it. It's a real challenge, this. I've spent quite a bit of time working on this. Feel quite proud to have learned the control. I was not really able to do this before putting this lesson together. So let's have a listen. Okay, so now let's take a look at the next example, and this is my most favorite Jeff Beck song of all time, and it's Two Rivers from the 1989 album Guitar Shop. I think everything about this track is just the next level. The production, Terry Bozzio's drum groove and playing on this, the whole sound of it, and this melody is just one of those melodies that just reduces you to tears. It's just absolutely beautiful. But the way he plays it is just so unorthodox. It's just such a great thing to learn. So once again, I've changed guitars. I'm now using my custom-built Music Man Silhouette Special. This was put together for me by Music Man and DiMarzio for a tour I did, a few tours I did back in the sort of 2006, 2007 period. We have fast track one in the bridge. That's my favorite pickup of all time. Now I have that on my Telecaster. I have the Fast Track T. Also have this on my custom Axis. You sometimes see me playing the single coil one. And then we have the area single coils. These ones are noiseless. I just felt that the Cutlass guitar did the Where Were You thing a little bit better, but this works great on this example. So to play this, you're going to be playing all harmonics, and I found that if you play the harmonics down by the bridge, or pick down by the bridge, the harmonics pop out a little bit better. So we start off on the 3rd fret of the D with a harmonic. So you play that harmonic on the 3rd fret of the D string, or just past the 3rd fret, and then you drop the bar by a whole tone. Then we're going to play one here at the 4th. It's a little harder to get there. Then we play one on the 5th fret D, then the 5th fret of the A, and then we play the 12th fret of the G harmonic, and that's where we just drop the tail of the note off. So you get this. So for the next part of the melody, it's exactly the same apart from the final note. Instead of playing the 12th fret G, we play the 5th fret of the E string, and then we're going to raise that up by a whole tone with the whammy bar. So obviously with harmonics, you get something like this. Okay, then we do exactly the same melody as we did the first time. So the final time that we play this melody, it's pretty much the same as the way we played it the second time. We're going down to that 5th fret of the low E, apart from we have a slight different rhythm to the way we come down through the harmonics, plus we're changing the pitch in a different direction. So let's have a look. So when you play that 5th fret of the E harmonic, you're going to drop down by a minor 3rd. And then come up by a semitone, so your final note is a whole tone lower. So let's just have a listen to it all put together. It's really tricky to play this one. I'm going to kick the compressor in, so hopefully the harmonics will pop out a little bit better. Here we go. So now we're going to take a look at another riff. This is an absolute stonker for you to learn, and this is Big Block from Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop, and this is another favorite of mine. I love the tone of this riff, and I love the way that Jeff uses the whammy bar within a riff context, giving you that sort of pseudo slide guitar sound. Now for the first part, I've only played a small section of what would be the verse, and live he's soloing over it. It's pretty free in terms of its arrangement. You're just sort of pumping off of the E string. That sort of thing, you know, playing that E5 chord. We have this little lick, which you're playing the open top 2 strings, bending the G string up on the 2nd fret, releasing that, pulling off the open G, and then playing the 2nd fret. So you get this sort of feel. Sometimes you're playing this 5th fret of the A and the D. I must admit, I improvised it during the intro section, so check out the tab that goes along with this lesson. But it's along those lines, you know, if you're playing that. Now we're into the chorus riff, and this is the riff that I really wanted to focus on here. I think this is genius. It really is a great example of how you can use the whammy bar to simulate a bottleneck playing slide. We're going to play the open E to the 3rd fret, E to the 5th fret, and then you're going to play the A string, but you're going to dip the bar as you play it. And then you're going to drop the bar down by a whole tone, so you're playing that kind of thing, really. And then we're playing the open E, 3rd fret to 5th fret. And there we scoop into an A5 chord. Then we do exactly the same thing again. But this time we play an E5. Then we do it one more time. There we're finishing off with a B flat 5. It's such a great sound. You can almost imagine, you know, using a slide, and the kind of tone I'm going for, I'm still using the the Wampler Tumnus, but I've split the hot rail and I'm using the middle single coil as well, and it has that kind of old school sort of slide sound. So following the B flat 5 chord, we now have a little descending pentatonic bending lick, all played with the fingers. You're going to bend 20 up a whole tone on the B, 17 on the top E. Play that with my second finger, so I'm picking with my thumb and then my second finger, and then you're pulling off from the 20 to the 17, and then play 19 on the G, and it's that figure that sort of rolls down. Then we're down to shape 1 of E minor pentatonic, bend 15 up a whole tone on the B, 12 on the top E, pull off 15, 12 on the B, and finish on 14 on the G. So put that together. And then we do the same thing on the G string, bend 14 up on the G, play 12 on the B, 14, pull off 12 on the G, 14 on the D, and on the G string, and then we drop the low E string down with the bars. So you get this. Then we're going to play a D5, but we're just playing that on the D and the G strings at the 7th fret. And then we have this little open string hammer on and pull off descending figure, starting on 2, 4, 2 open on the G, and then 4, 2 open on the D, same on the A, 3 on the E, and then just drop your E string down. You're back into the verse riff there, so you get this. Okay, so now we're on to our final example, and I wanted to look at something off of Wired, and this is another great track, and it's Lead Boots. We're just going to take a look mainly at the riff. That's my focal point here. We're going to kick things off. We're back to playing with a pick, I should say. Another odd one out. This is pick and whammy bar on this track. So we're starting off with this F minor 7th chord. So that's 8 on the A, 6 on the D, 8 on the G, 6 on the B. So you can just bar with your first finger. Drop that down to E flat minor 7. And then we're playing a B flat triad with a C in the bass. So that's 3 on the A, 3 on the G and B, and 1 on the top E. So you get this. And he kind of drops the bar down. Now, on the original recording, Jeff doesn't come in straight away. You've got the clav and the bass. He comes in from the... But obviously, playing it on your own, just play the riff. So you've got this riff. And it's based around G mixolydian. So you're coming down 5-4 on the G, to 5 on the D, to 3 on the D. Now, I'm sure I can hear an open D there, but it's not very pronounced. So it doesn't sound, it sounds like there's something else to me. So it sounds like he's pumping off of that note. But, you know, maybe it's my ears, but I kind of like doing that anyway. So, and then the second time, we do have the open D, and then we just repeat that. I am kind of lifting my finger off anyway, instinctively, just to cut that note off. Then we have this melody, which is kind of pentatonic mixolydian based in G minor. Well, I say G minor, obviously G mixolydian isn't minor, but we're mixing the two scales. The first time round, he does play that B note, that major thirds. So you're sliding in 17, 15, 17, and then that 16. Back to 17 on the D, and then 17 to 15, and kind of curling that 15 at the end. So And then we have this melody. And there's some whammy bar sort of wiggling going on there. 18, 17, 15, 17 on the G. And then you're hammering 15 to 16 on the G. And then we play that 18th fret and you bend it up, let it down. There's quite a lot of aggressive vibrato on it. Now, it's quite a quirky sounding melody. And then he just repeats. But the second time, he doesn't play that B. He plays the B flat and he bends it slightly. And that time he bends it up. And this melody, again, it just gradually develops. He plays it in the lower register as well. Okay, so there you have it. My 5 favorite Jeff Beck moments. We could have really gone on one with this lesson. Like I said, slight disclaimer. Although as much as I love Jeff Beck, it's never really been something I've studied to any extent. And I'm not professing to be an aficionado of his playing style. I really have studied these parts over the last sort of 2 or 3 days. Actually, it's been quite fast looking at the parts. Obviously, there were things that I knew how he did it, but I'd never really got into it. I have to give a big shout out, though, to my dear friend, or my late dear friend, Michael Caswell, really good buddy of mine who passed away in 2016. Mike was just an absolute amazing guitar player. He was a great friend of mine. We both worked together at Lick Library. Every time I travel over from Sweden to Lick Library, Mike would always come in. Oh, you're coming over? He'd come in and we'd hang out and play. And we were actually planning to do an album together. The plan was, I've still got the text messages from him. Actually, I haven't sort of managed to, clear that path yet. I still have those. But, Mike and I were conversing and it was like, okay, you write 5 songs, I write 5 songs, and then we'd put it all together. He was going to come over, but then, he had that tragic accident where he lost his life. But Mike was just absolutely immersed himself in Jeff Beck's style, his playing style. He really had the sound down. He played those old Jeff Beck guitars from the early 90s as well. So, I'm kind of dedicating this a bit to my old friend, I guess, and try and keep Mike's legacy alive. Check out some of Michael Caswell's teachings of Jeff Beck stuff online. The Lick Library stuff he did is absolutely brilliant. And of course, you should check out his solo album as well. Okay, so that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I've had a lot of fun learning this stuff. I'm finding that doing these YouTube lessons is kind of pushing me in different directions. I'm looking at some material that, although I'm really into it, I've never really studied. I guess all the years I worked at Lick Library, I was given one thing to do. So it's kind of been nice to move into some other territory. As usual, don't forget to click the link in the description below and head on over to the website where you can download the tab for free. So anyway, that's it from me. Look forward to seeing you here very soon. Bye for now.